Hello, and welcome to Bits and Bytes Live. It's a series of short conversations where we discuss relevant topics in a short format. And today we are going to be talking about automation and how automation relates to communication service providers and how it can help them in the simplification of their deployment of their network and ongoing operations. So to do that, I've got two friends with me today. First, Moshe Lavi. He is the Senior Director of Product Management at VMware, focusing on automation and assurance. And I've got Adam Rabin, who is Senior Product Marketing Manager at VMware, focusing on automation. My name is Karina Dahlke. I'm a Senior Director at VMware with Product Marketing and Strategy. So with that, I am just going to jump in and start the conversation for us all. So there's a lot of buzz, right, in the industry, especially when you start talking about 5G. Everybody starts talking about cloud native and cloud native readiness and virtual RAN and open RAN, et cetera. And so, Adam, I want to pose this question to you. Where do you think we are today? Where do you think CSPs stand today with cloud native readiness?
Yeah, thanks, Karina. That's a good question, I think, to kind of kick us off. And it's important to take a step back and kind of look at this with a wide lens and kind of look at the market holistically and where are service providers going today. So many service providers are on the path to cloud native, as we said, and this is it feels like a buzzword, but it's really a goal for a lot of service providers because it can enable them to provide really cutting edge, next generation services to a lot of their customers. And those services are grounded in 5G connectivity to provide high bandwidth, ultra low latency, ultra reliable applications that can enable a handful of services that we're talking about that are prevalent and widespread, or at least that's where the trend is going. So when I say that, I mean services like remote healthcare, autonomous driving, things like training applications, VR, AR headsets for manufacturers, for instance, to help train and onboard.
Right? The metaverse.
Exactly. So to enable a lot of this, it requires really advanced applications that require a lot of network resources. And so service providers are trying to enable their customers to get there. The fact is, though, a lot of service providers find themselves at different stages in their ability to offer these services to their customers. So some service providers are still working in 3G physical format environments with various, a lot of focus on their core and less with an ability to support on the edge. And then we have some service providers that are grounded in 4G VNS, virtualized network functions, and they can offer a certain level of connectivity to their customers. And then finally, we're also seeing some service providers grounded in cloud native networks that they're just building from the ground up as greenfield deployments. And they're able to offer their customers these 5G services that I had just mentioned before. So the market is really fragmented today, the global market. And we do have service providers at all sorts of stages of readiness. So there is common alignment on a goal and where a lot of service providers see things going and see the services they're ultimately able to offer to customers. But there's not really alignment on how to get there, and the market itself is a bit scattered today.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you bring a good point up where if you're starting from scratch, I mean, obviously it's hard and I don't want to trivialize anything, but you're not dealing with a bunch of baggage, right? You're not dealing with a bunch of history, current legacy networks that you need to keep up and running, services that you have to have 5 nines reliability on, and then interchange those and intermix those with new cloud native services. But when in most of the cases, for most of our customers, they are dealing with brownfield environments, right? They're already supporting the needs of all of us, and we rely on their technology every day in, day out. So now they're mixing old technologies with new technologies, and I think you introduce a lot of complexity there. And of
Exactly.
course,
And that, to your point, that adds another level of this fragmentation that I was talking about in the market, where you have some customers that are constructing these brand new deployments and some that are brownfield, as you had mentioned, that are kind of mixing and matching various technologies to try to offer new services. So there's a lot of complexity in the market and a lot of fragmentation.
yeah, for sure. So one thing that can help with that is automation, right? So there's a lot of talk about automation. Obviously, it's another big buzzword in the market. However, implementing that is a little different than the PowerPoint slides or the white paper, right? So I would be interested to get your thoughts, Moshe, on where do you think CSPs are today with respect to their opinion on the value of automation? And do you think that they're ready to automate their networks or not quite ready? Where's that there has to be obviously a trust factor there. And then of course there's going to be some challenges. So just wanted to get your thoughts on that, Moshe.
Sure. So thanks first of all for the introduction. I think that Adam and you are spot on the two type of customers and the two type of dialogue that we see between brownfield and greenfield when we are going now to cloud native, whether you transform or you evolve. I think that there is another use case next to it, which is the third use case, which called optimization. When we are going to automation, we also have a lot of dialogue with the customer about how to optimize existing processes inside the brownfield. So not only to transform brownfield to greenfield or brownfield to cloud native or create greenfield like we see, but also to optimize a lot of the existing processes. And I think that what makes me to realize that we are in a new area is the fact that most of the customer, they are not talking in the language of atomic operation. When you're talking to customers, they are not telling you, I need to automate this process. No, they want to automate the complete flow. So they are talking with you about pipeline and about how multiple autonomous systems are connecting into one and how you can take a lot of atomic operation and give them a pipeline and connect it to the Artifactory. So I see definitely that 90% of the customers are like striving to achieve end-to-end automation and not only to look how to solve a specific action that bothers them today in the transition to cloud native. So we do see brownfield mitigation to greenfield, we see greenfield, and we see optimization of existing brownfield networks.
Perfect. So what do you see though, some of the, I mean, everybody I know is behind the idea of automation. Everybody's like, yeah, this is going to be great. Less work for me, free me up to do less manual tasks, to do more higher level thinking, deploy new services, et cetera. But what do you think some of those challenges are in actually adopting that technology or making that happen?
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, most of the customer are struggling when it comes to the multi-vendor environment. When you want to achieve automation, in some cases there is standardization. There is a lot of APIs in the industry like TMF, 3GPP, Etsy, and some vendors support out-of-the-box integration, but in some case they are not. And then there is a discussion of who's doing what is the process, how do you create a flow inside of the process. And I think that in many cases, service provider expect from vendors to take the leadership, to have the ecosystem, and to give them a full story about how the integration is done, instead of as it used to be in the past that you used to take two vendors, put them in the lab, put some services next to it, and then bam, you have an integration. There are many OSS companies in the industry that used to say, okay, I will automate this process for you. And then they will sit for a few months, give them an automation. Today, it's in another way. Today, the service provider, when they go to the RFP or the RFI, they already tell you, you need to support this language, you need to do this integration, and I expect you to have this ecosystem. So all the automation should be incumbent with the offering.
Yeah. So yeah, that interoperability, following standards is really, really important there to make that happen. And then also I think, people want to understand what's going on in their network too, right? If my job is to run the network and make sure that it's up and my customers are up and running, I want to make sure that the decisions that are being made in an automated fashion are decisions that I myself would make too. So, either one of you want to comment on, how we work with our customers, or how other vendors can be working with their customers to make sure that the flows are correct, the decisioning is correct. I think that's a relevant topic to talk about.
Yeah, I think that you're spot on. One of the reasons, which I always explain why I'm doing automation and assurance together, is because of the fact that automation need to come hand to hand with assurance. You cannot just automate processes without realize what happened after you automate. Today, all the workflows that we are building, all the end-to-end processes, they have, first of all, stopper points, monitoring points, and then rollbacks. You cannot just design as send and forget. You need to understand in which point you succeed, in which point you failed, and how you can recover. One of the major projects that we are doing today to deploy thousands of cell sites show us the need of understanding that when you deploy a vertical solution with so many layers, you need to understand where are the areas that you succeed and where do you need to recover and how you can troubleshoot. Each area actually costs tons of hours of troubleshooting and maintaining in order to overcome if you don't have the right assurance tool to understand what is the status of each layers. So definitely the automation comes with assurance, and they need to arrive end to end and make sure that the user can validate his operation every time that he automate them.
Yeah.
Something that I add there is, in addition to having this integration between an automation product and assurance product, and kind of putting together a full stack of offerings to the service provider, in addition to the operational benefits, something else that we're really seeing are the benefits to operating costs and capital costs for the service provider. These benefits really extend to a lot of parts of not just of how the service provider is managing their operations from day zero deployments to day two ongoing lifecycle management, but it's creating new opportunities for the service provider. So if they're able to leverage an effective automation solution, an effective assurance solution, they're really able to manage their costs, and as a result of that, offer their services to new customers, develop new routes to revenue to provide all sorts of 5G based services. So in addition to really supporting service providers on an operational level, an effective automation solution integrated with an effective assurance solution can really help service providers manage costs effectively, effectively allocate resources, and just manage the complexity of a really rapidly expanding network from core to edge. And how do you do that? You have to consolidate all of that with effective automation, with effective assurance. And as a result, you can manage these costs of a growing network.
Perfect. Yeah. And I love how you're talking about the integration of the automation and the assurance and those analytics behind that to be critical. So I kind of think of it, you might have a house, you might have like a crack at the top of a wall, or your roof is off angle. And it actually doesn't have to do with the upper structure of your house. It can be your foundation is shifting, and that foundation shifting can cause problems with your plumbing, can cause problems with your walls, can cause problems with your roof. And it's really important to understand what's underneath all those layers of the stack. And that's what you've got as your base, your infrastructure base that will support all those different layers. But if you don't have that visibility and that understanding, you're essentially searching for a needle in a haystack, and you're searching in the wrong section, right? You're just searching in the top layer when you need to be looking at the bottom. So that's why that integration is really key. Well, we only have a few more minutes, so I just want to toss out one more question in terms of, what do you think that being effective with automation for CSPs means, like in a day-to-day environment, and how maybe one of you can give an example of how automation has helped some of our customers go to market faster and deploy faster.
Yeah. So I think that, first of all, when you think about automation, you need to connect to the CSP structure. You need to understand which kind of teams are working in the CSP environment. Today, when you deliver such a multi-layer solution, each layer is obtained by a different team. And each team needs to have his own automation tool and his own assurance tool. And as you said, if you have the crack on the wall, you need to understand which team owns this fixing, instead of just juggling between different teams. So one of the things that we notice today, that with automation and with specific API, with specific multi-tenancy and user management, you really need to make sure that each of the relevant teams will have a specific access to the automation tools, and he will have his toolkit, I call it, that he can do his work and obtain who is responsible to what, and make the delivery process much faster. So instead of spending time on troubleshooting and acquisition, you are doing this, he needs to do that. You simply know where you are in the process and who need to own the next step. And with that, we are dramatically improving the time to market.
Moshe, I have a question for you on that, which is obviously the benefits of unifying various modules in an automation product or automation offering are really important. What's something that you've seen customers asking for when it comes, because you packaging and offering a unified solution to customers is not an easy task by any means. As you said, there are different teams responsible for different types of automation. What's something, maybe from a technological perspective, that you see as an important step to achieving that for the service provider?
Yeah, I think that, specifically when we are talking about cloud technology and cloud native application, we sometimes tend to forget that in the telco world, the application are not really so cloud native. I mean, at the end of the day, we are talking about applications that require a very low latency with a very strong, with a very high throughput. And with that in mind, these applications are tightly coupled to the infrastructure. So if we want it or not, even though they are cloud native, you still need the very strong smart SNCC. You need the very strong DPDK and SRIOV and all this technology, which is hardware coupled. And what we see today from our customers is that there are two teams. There is the application team and there is the cloud team. And the cloud team is setting the infrastructure. But when the application team is coming and deploying their application, they want to know that everything is configured well on the infrastructure. And this is the main obstacle, the challenge between cloud team to application team, and how the automation can give them the right tool set to validate the deployment of what they are getting as customers, because the application owners are also the customers of the infrastructure owner. It's just like when you go to your IT and you ask them for your laptop, you want to know that your laptop is installed properly. So you will validate the laptop. But think about it in a cloud world. They are deploying their application, their IMS, the EPC. How do they know that the SRIOV is configured correctly? That's the kind of request that we always get from the customer help me to know that I'm not wasting my time.
Great point. So thank you all. A great discussion. I'm going to wrap it up because we're at time, but I'm going to finish with a joke, and it's a kid-friendly joke. So you guys ready?
Yes.
Go for it.
Okay. So we just had Halloween not that long ago. What is a skeleton's favorite snack?
Boom.
Spare ribs.
I
Get it?
like it.
Okay, if that was a fake laugh, that's fine. But thank you for laughing.
No, that's a genuine laugh.
Okay.
I'm all about those jokes. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. That was a great discussion. And please visit us at our telco.vmware.com for more information. We look forward to seeing you on the next Bits and Bytes Live. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks for hosting us.
Yes, thank you.
All right.